And then, hold on. It's not loading. I don't know what the line is. Oh my God. I'm going to cut all this out. Um, so this song comes from like a poem I wrote from school, which was based on like a time where I was in line for I think a King Cruel concert, and then I seen this white chick. She like comes into the line, she cuts through everybody, and then like she meets up with her friends, and then she like pulls out this huge bag of like Asian snacks like Pocky and Hello Panda and stuff, and then she like thinks she's hot shit and stuff because she knows all of these exotic snacks and whatnot. And the entire time I'm just like rolling my eyes, going like, I had those things as a kid, you know? And then everybody was like glaring at me, going, "What is that?" So that's just kind of what it's based on, and then it just kind of develops into other things. What's common for us is exotic and trendy for them. We've been over this, it's Columbus all over again, in the form of a teenage white girl. There's all of these kinds of like foods that we would like eat as kids, you know, and I feel like that's a big thing that everyone has an experience with, where like you eat these foods at home, and then like when you would take them to school and stuff, people were like, "What is that?" And then you know you kind of feel bad about it, and then like years later down the road, it's like super trendy, and everybody wants to try it and stuff, and it's kind of like, where was that love for the food when I was eating it, you know? They scream, "What is that?" when they saw my food. Compared to Lunchables, how could rice be cool? They'll just blow it off, 'cause I was in grade 2. Now I can't eat my lunch inside a public room. So yeah, you know, when you bring food in to school and stuff, and like all the kids would like look at you funny, and they like make faces and they go like, "Ew, what is that?" Or they like, "It smells funny." And then you just kind of like internalize that and bring it home. And then I just remember like bringing food home, and my mom would be like, "Why didn't you eat the food?" And I'd be like, "Oh, you know, I wasn't hungry," or like, "We were doing things," or like, "I was busy," but really it's because of like other kids made me feel bad about my food, which is weird because like the food I had was really good, and it wasn't just like some plain PB&J sandwich, but I felt bad about it because I was like different, and people made sure I knew about that. Um, and so like something like Lunchables was super popular because it came with like Smarties or something, and I guess commercialism is like cool and whatnot, and you had like brand name things versus like if I came in with like, you know, rice and like beef whatever stew, sinigang or caldereta or something, um, and it was just not as cool as Lunchables and like a Kool-Aid for whatever reason. I don't know why I thought that like a homemade lunch wasn't as cool. Um, but the significance of the grade 2 line is because from kindergarten to grade 2, I was in like the public school system. And then from grade 3 onwards, I was in like the Catholic school system. And in the Catholic school system, like, I'm pretty sure the majority of kids are Filipino. But by that point, when I moved into like the Catholic school system, the damage was already done, and I was too embarrassed to eat food in public, you know? So I would just kind of like wait till I was walking home to eat the food, or I'd wait till I was already at home and my parents weren't home so I could eat it, or I'd like throw it out sometimes, which I'm kind of ashamed to say, but not anymore. That was just the thing I did then. We would leave the park and eat lunch in the back of the van. We didn't eat inside, and as a kid I didn't understand how the food inside Disneyland's a scam. We would go to like, I guess, theme parks and other things like that. You know, like Canada's Wonderland and Disneyland and stuff. And for those parks, you could like get a stamp or a wristband, and you could like go to the park and then leave and then come back to the park. So instead of like eating the food at the park, we would go back into the parking lot where our van was, and we would just like eat food there that my parents would bring. And they'd bring like a whole rice cooker and like tubs of like ulam and stuff. and we would eat there with like on paper plates and things. And we'd open like the trunk door and like the side doors. And we'd all just chill there and eat. And I just remember like people were like walking by and they'd like look at us, and I felt really bad about it and like embarrassed and stuff. And so I just like wouldn't eat food for the whole day, and I just kind of be like, no, I'm good. I don't want to like puke on the rides or whatever, or like I don't want to be bloated when I run around. But really, it's because I didn't like how people were like looking at me, which was super weird. And um, I don't know. I just felt really like embarrassed by it, but also like I don't know why, because we were saving food, not saving food, we were saving money, and we had a bunch of really good food, and I guess I knew food inside the park was expensive. I just didn't know how expensive it was and how much of a scam it was. Like paying $20 to eat Mickey Mouse shaped food is such a ripoff. I don't know why anybody does that when you can eat the same shit for like $5. But you know, as a kid, you just kind of want like that whole experience. Um, yeah. When I look back on the early days of my life, the shame that I felt inside, I recently realized was racism internalized. It wasn't until like years later down the road, probably like late high school, like grade 12 or like early university, when I like looked back on, I guess, kind of my culture and my like connection to it, when I realized that like there was a lot of internalized racism and hatred inside of it. Um, you know, just in terms of like how I viewed the culture and like the way I interacted with it, you know. Like I didn't want to learn Tagalog growing up, and now I kind of regret that. Well, I regret that a lot and stuff. Um, yeah, just internalized racism, all that jazz. You know, you just kind of hate yourself in your culture. And it took her a long time to realize that, because I think, I wouldn't say like a lot of kids have it, but I feel like there's enough kids who are like kids of immigrants and stuff, or immigrants themselves, and they kind of like develop that. And then when you hang out with other kids who have internalized racism, it just kind of plays off of each other until, you know, I guess somebody realizes, or like the cycle breaks, and then you just kind of learn to embrace and learn to love your culture and whatnot. Yeah. When I was a kid, I thought barongs looked bad. None of the other kids were wearing what I had. Filipino things were all just tacky and sad. That was my grade school thinking. How fucked up is that? So when I was a kid, we had this like, I guess like a fancy day at school or something. And my parents made me wear a barong, which is like a traditional Filipino shirt, silk, super cool and stuff. But when I went there and wore it, like nobody else had it on, and so I felt super awkward because everybody else just had like the regular like suit and ties and stuff, and I was like, oh, I'm just like super out of place, and everybody's looking at me and asking me stuff, and I don't want this, you know. And so I was just like, I'm not wearing this ever again if I don't have to. And so I feel like it was that mixed in with like seeing all like the fancy, classy people on like TV and ads and stuff, and they were like wearing suits and ties, and I'm like, I'm gonna wear that because that's fancy. But like barongs are like tacky and sad, you know? And it wasn't until like later on in life I was kind of like, it's all just Western propaganda to make you wear what they want to wear and make you hate yourself. And I was like, word, I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, it's just super fucked up and sad that that's like a thing that a lot of kids kind of grow up dealing with, and then they just kind of, you know, hate themselves for it, which isn't good. And we're trying to grow past that. Now I'm trying to make up for the lost time. I've got to go and find how to connect to this side I rejected for all of these years. You know, that last, I guess, bridge section is just about coming to terms with like that internalized racism and looking at it and going like, this isn't what I want for myself. And like, I want to grow past it and I want to learn to love my culture, you know, despite all of the years that I've kind of like pushed it aside and like shat on it. I just want to learn all I can about it in spite of everything that's happened thus far, even though it seems kind of late, like 20 years later. You know, it's never really too late to want to kind of embrace yourself and your culture and learn to love that. So yeah, just trying to connect to the side that you kind of reject and deny. It just takes a long time. And the first step is to recognize it. And yeah. Okay, that's it for Pocky. I don't know what else to say.